Welcome, and thank you for tuning into the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. I'm your host, Ralph Owens, along with Terry Baylor. In today's episode, we'll cover topics such as getting stuck, maintaining your brand, understanding human behavior, navigating through pain, and finding a place of agreement. Enjoy the show. You are playing this game whether you think you are or not. And you can either be mad at the game and lose, or you can learn how to win at the game and prosper, right? And I know for me, that's the point that I got to, because there was a time in my life where I was just mad because of I saw this injustice, or I saw, I didn't think this was right. I didn't think that was right. But then I started looking around me, and those who were just upset at what they saw, they weren't prospering. They were stuck right there. 20 years later, guess what? They're still talking about what they mad about 20 years ago. I'm gone, right? I wanted to find people who had understood how to overcome these situations and to better themselves and to, reach their goals and their dreams and not get stuck at that one point, right? Because I think we all probably face this pivotal point in our lives, and what you choose to do with it is crucial. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Terry?
No, I agree totally. So the entire time you were speaking, the only thing I could hear was, what's your brand? What's your brand? Are you willing to compromise your brand for this moment, right? For this temporary situation? Because here's the thing, right? And here's so now let's start to turn the page a little bit, right? So tomorrow's going to come, right? You're going to get up, you're going to, do your daily routine, and you're going to be at work. You have 100% opportunity to continue to brand your purpose, right? For your life, for your career. And no matter what that opinion is, right? We have a choice to either agree with that or to live in a way that shows that that really isn't representative of who I am, right? So every day, I'll tell you this, every day I went in with the purpose to be the best version of Terry Baylor that I could be. If that meant, listening to a podcast and getting inspired, if that meant calling Ralph and saying, hey, man, I need a pep talk today. If that meant, hey, I have a one-on-one with one of my mentors, I want to make sure that I don't miss that. If that meant, hey, I'm going to, let me get a pep talk from my wife today, right? Do what it takes to maintain your brand. And I think that's really what this is all about, right? It's the books, it's the mentors, it's something encouraging, right? And so that's how that's what I would advise, right? That's my recommendation is what you feed yourself will come out. And so when you were talking about that moment and 8.5 years being compromised for these 6 months, I'm thinking, man, what type of mental, spiritual, physical exercise had you been doing to handle that moment? Because here's the deal. You can't get in the game and be like, coach, I'm ready to take this shot. Throw me the ball. But the work, it does not reflect you being ready for that moment. I 100% believe, when you're talking through that moment, man, I transported back to that moment, and I could see myself.
Yes.
I could see myself.
Yes.
And I remember how calm I was in that moment. I was extremely calm. And And I think it was because all the information that we had been taking in, the books that we have read, the advice that we had been given, the the one-on-ones that we've had about, emotional quotient, right? How do we maintain that emotional quotient? So, I definitely want to kind of dig into that a little bit because that's really what the crux of managing these moments is about. And I'll say one of the early books that you referenced for me that helped me in this moment was How to Win Friends and Influence People. That book, although it was about how to engage others and how to really serve others to help move the agenda forward, those tidbits taught they helped me understand human behavior.
Yes.
Which better helped me understand my behavior. Right? And so, man, so as we start taking in that information, as we start digesting that information, as that information starts to challenge you, right? It's going to change you. It's going to change how you treat your friends. It's going to change how you treat your kids. It's going to change how you treat your wife. I'll tell you, man, when I was reading that How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I'll be using some of those techniques, and my wife would say, I know what you're doing. But because again, right, it was all about how can I serve you?
Yes.
Right? How can I get to a place? Because here's the one thing, guys, even in a difficult situation, and Ralph, we say this all the time, it's hard to argue with someone who agrees with you.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a technique to that. I'm not going to necessarily agree with you about something that's not true. But what I can agree with you on is, hey, let's develop a plan forward so we can both see a success.
Yes.
Right? So we got to find some place of agreement. That I would probably say that's, number one, to your point, understanding and managing your emotions in that moment. Get away. Figure out.
Yeah.
Figure out.
Yeah. You have to. You said something that made me think back to, how was I dealing with that moment? And I want to make sure that we're clear, for everyone who's listening. It hurt. It hurt bad. I'm not saying that you won't have pain. And for me, listening to that worship music on the way to the bus stop every day.
You're right.
The tears were flowing, man. Sometimes the tears were because of the pain. Sometimes the tears were because of anger, right? And forcing myself to give this thing over to God every single morning, because everybody listening to this podcast has the ability and the capacity to be the best version of yourself or the worst version of yourself.
That's true.
Every single day. You can be a show enough devil if you wanted to be, or you can be the nicest person a person ever met. The difference is you have to choose which one you're going to be.
Yep.
And if you have to Terry's point, come up with a routine that helps you to cope with what you're going through, so that when you show up to the game, you giving your 100% best. So it's 100% imperative, man, that you figure out a routine that works for you. For me, I just remember I'm a huge Fred Hammond fan, and Fred Hammond right around 95, 96 was like the pivotal time for me, in his music that was really speaking to me the loudest. And I got back into some of them old songs, man. And I remember sitting in the parking lot in the garage, just crying in my car, just really trying to give this thing over to God and disciplining myself so that when I showed up in the office building, I was ready. Right. And it didn't last that long, but I'm being transparent to show that we're not trying to say that it doesn't hurt. You have, to Terry's point, you have to figure out which way works for you, but there is a process. But also when you went to How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's funny you said that, because I'm actually reading that book all over again with my team, at work. And, you talked about how it helped you with human relations. So this is for our friends out there who are musicians and singers and stuff. You know, if two people singing in two different keys, it just clashes and it doesn't work.
It's
How
terrible.
how to win friends and influence people causes you to become on the same key and flow in harmony.
Yes.
So things work better.
Yes.
Things work much easier,
Yes.
right? You don't have that opposition that you would hear like if you had two people playing in two different keys. I'll leave it at that. You have to get the book and read it for yourself. Now that book was written probably in the 50s, I think,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. It's a
And
while back.
the concepts are 100% timeless, right? Because they're principle driven. It wasn't made specifically for that time. That book will sail throughout the rest of history because humans are still humans and we all still respond to the same things. Something as simple as I believe one of the chapters says the sweetest words out of any person's mouth
Mm-hmm.
is your name.
Is your name? That's right. I knew that's where you were going. Yep.
They say the sweetest words that a person could ever hear is their own name. And when you understand that, and instead of a person coming by and you didn't take the time to remember their name, hey, how you doing? And they could tell you don't know their name. That makes a difference in the way that you communicate with that person, the way they trust and the way that they see you, things of that nature. Just quick 30 seconds. A friend of mine told me a story about this gentleman who was a plant manager of a plant down here in Texas. He died recently, older guy, had been working 40, 50 years. Said the church was packed out, right? So many people came to wish him goodbye. And everybody said the same thing. He always remembered my name. He remembered my kids' names. He remembered my grandkids' names. He remembered every special event that happened in my life. When he would come up to, he'd be like, "How did Bobby do in the baseball game last week?" Right? For everybody in the entire plant, right? So his wife, his widow, gets up on the stage and she's crying because it meant so much to her. And she says, "What y'all don't know is he carried a stack of index cards in his front pocket with all of your stories. He took the time to write down everybody's name, everybody's child's name,
Oh
right?
my gosh, that's amazing.
And touched thousands of people. Not because he had such a good memory, but because he was intentional."
Yes. Wow, that's a great story.
Right. So the power in a name, going out of your way to remember somebody's name or remember about their family and things of that nature, putting what's important to them before what's important to you will create a synergy that helps you to get favor with that person. Right. But yeah, no, I just wanted to mention those things as you
No,
were.
that's perfect, Ralph, because it goes right back to what I was saying. To me, the number two thing is, which is you have to find a place of agreement. If you can establish that, find a place of agreement. And I believe, we started doing that. Um, you found a place of agreement and went and won at what you were doing. I found a place of agreement that
Mm-hmm,
allowed the business to succeed,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And it allowed us, quite honestly, it allowed us to move forward,
It
right?
did.
It allowed us not to be held in that in that light, right? Because again,
Mm-hmm.
we're the ones who own the perspective.
That's it.
We own what it looks like. We own what tomorrow looks like,
Mm-hmm. That's it.
right? And
Yeah.
so if we can be intentional about, how we're going to do that,
Mm-hmm.
man, I think it's man, I'm just hoping that this is helping somebody. I'm hoping that what you shared, because some of the stuff you shared today, you haven't shared that with me. I'm like,
Oh
wow,
wow.
I didn't know.
Well,
I didn't know.
Terry, as we get older, man, and we learn, my pastor, he preached something, man, it was so powerful. He said that there's seeds of greatness inside of all of us, but sometimes it takes the fire to release those seeds so that
Mm,
they can germinate and become great.
mm,
Talked about the redwoods up in California. and how the seeds are all inside of them, but the heat from the forest fires is what opens them up so that the seeds can fall into the ground. And I look at that situation that happened to us, and I just told my wife this not too long ago. I said, do you realize that had that situation never happened, I would have never left that company? I would still be there today. God, and I've said this over the year, God does not miss. He does not miss. He knows exactly what he's doing. If he allows the fire to get hot, sometimes it's to get you to move into your destiny. Thank you for listening to the Leadership Sovereignty Podcast. We hope that you not only enjoyed the content, but gained something to help you on your personal leadership journey. Feel free to reach out to us on X and Instagram under the handles Leadership Sovereignty. Until next time, stay safe, peace, and blessings.